Today, we talk about the bond of love. The bond of love does not happen only among humans, between humans. It is also the bond of love with the humans and the animals, the pets. I'm sure most of you have pets and you know what kind of bond you share with them. Yes, so let's talk about the bond of love in chapter 9 of Beehive by Kenneth Anderson. Before we move on, let's know a little about him. Kenneth Douglas Stewart Anderson was an Indian-born British writer and hunter. Wow, now that's a vague combination. British writer and hunter who wrote books about his adventures in the jungles of South India. Anderson went to Bishop Cotton Boys' School and also studied at St. Joseph's College, Bangalore. He was sent to study law at Edinburgh, but he quit studies and returned to India. He worked for 15 years in the Post and Telegraph Department and later worked at the British Aircraft Factory in Bangalore. Later, it was known as HAL, in the rank of factory manager for planning. So that was his journey. Now, because he was also a hunter, so he had that craving, he had that, that certain thing to be with the animals. Yes, so let's see how he has expressed it in this story. The bond of love is the story of love and friendship between an animal and a human being. The story is developed around the concept that love is reciprocal. Reciprocal as in you give love, you get love. You give respect, you get respect. So it is always a reciprocal concept. One day, the author found a bear cub in a field. He took it home and presented it to his wife, a bear cub, just imagine. The bear and the author's wife developed a great love for each other. When the bear grew up, it was sent to the zoo at Mysore. Now, you could not keep such a huge bear at home as a pet. She became very sad. After 3 months, she visited the zoo. The bear, whose name was Baba, at once recognized her and danced with happiness. That bond is there. So obviously, she came back, but she could not live without the bear. So she got the permission of the zoo superintendent to get the bear back. A special place was made at home for the grown-up bear. Now both the bear and the writer's wife were happy. The story shows that animals too have as much love and affection as human beings have. Even they have a heart that loves. So yes, even they like the warmth. They like to, get love and give love. So let's talk about the narrator's wife and the bear. I will begin with Bruno, my wife's pet sloth bear. Now here the narrator, and he's talking about his wife's pet sloth bear. What do you mean by a sloth bear? Bears that actually live in the jungles. Yes, they are nice and furry with long black hair and big long claws and that big snout. Yes, and generally these bears, they feed on insects. Yeah. So I will begin with Bruno, my wife's pet sloth bear. Now here he's talking of Bruno. And in the plot, he gave us the name Baba. Why so? We shall know it. Don't worry. Relax. So, I got him for her by accident. Actually, he did not intentionally go and get it, but by chance it happened. 2 years ago, we were passing through the sugarcane fields near Mysore. Remember, he was a hunter. People were driving away the wild pigs from the fields by shooting at them. Some wild pigs had come into the fields, so they were shooting at them. Some were shot and some escaped. We thought that everything was over when suddenly a black sloth bear came out panting in the hot sun. Now, what they thought was the wild pigs, some died, of course, they were shot and some escaped. So everything was settled. The people thought everything is done, it's fine. But suddenly, a black sloth bear came out panting in the hot sun. What do you mean by a sloth bear? A bear actually which lives in jungles. Yes, it has this long black fur. It has, that long snout. Okay, and it generally, feeds on insects. So that's how it has those long claws. So this black sloth bear suddenly came out panting in the hot sun. Maybe it was running those, from those shots. So it was panting. Now, I will not shoot a sloth bear wantonly. Wantonly as in for no good reason. Why should I just shoot it? But unfortunately, for the poor beast, one of my companions did not feel that way about it and promptly, immediately shot the bear on the spot. Now, I felt that why should I just shoot it? But unfortunately, to the bear's bad luck, my friend, one of my companions, he did not feel the same and he immediately shot it. As we watched the fallen animal, we were surprised to see that the black fur on its back moved. Okay, it moved. Now, the bear had fallen on the face. Okay, and left the prostrate body. Prostrate body as in, it had fallen on the ground with its face down. Something which was on the back of the bear, it suddenly moved and it moved away. It left the body from there. Then we saw it was a baby bear that had been riding on its mother's back when the sudden shot had killed her. That shot killed the mother, right? The mother bear. But the baby bear ran away from there. The little creature ran around its prostrate parent, making a pitiful noise. It ran around its prostrate parent, the parent which was the mother, which had fallen on the ground with the face down. He was running around the mother, making a pitiful noise. He was arousing pity, like he was a small baby bear. So obviously, children want their mothers. So he was crying around it, sort of making that pitiful noise. I ran up to it to attempt a capture. I thought I'll just go and catch it. It scooted into the sugarcane field, as in it just ran away into the sugarcane field. Now, if you have seen a sugarcane field, you have those long things, and if the small baby bear just goes in, you cannot see it, right? Following it with my companions, I was at last able to grab it by the scruff of its neck. Scruff means the back of the neck, from there I could hold it. While it snapped and tried to scratch me with its long hooked claws. Now the baby bear wanted to save himself, right? He just tried to, hit him, snap at him. But this guy wanted to catch him for a good reason. Now the baby bear wasn't aware. He's so tiny. How does he know what's good and what's bad? So he was just trying to save himself. We put it in one of the gunny bags, the gunny bags that come, we had brought, and when I got back to Bangalore, I duly presented it to my wife. She was delighted. She was extremely happy. What he did now, he had the baby bear with him. So what he did was, he went and gave it as a gift to his wife, and his wife was more than happy. She at once put a colored ribbon around its neck and ran, and after discovering the cub was a boy, she christened it Bruno. Now, she put a nice colored ribbon around the neck, and after discovering it, after realizing that this baby bear was a male bear, he was a boy, she christened it, as in she named it Bruno. So now here he got the first name, Bruno, right? We will know how that he got Baba. Now, Bruno soon took to drinking milk from a bottle. Now, gradually he settled down, So as they carried him in that jute fiber, in that gunny bag, you have the small holes when all that rice and wheat comes, yeah. So he was safe enough, he could breathe. So yes, when he came there and when he was welcomed by the wife, he was named, then gradually he started getting used to her. Okay, so soon he took to drinking milk from a bottle. It was but a step further, and within a very few days, he started eating and drinking everything else. Now, slowly, he started getting used to, yeah. Within a few days, he was ready to eat and drink everything. You want to see his list? He used to eat all of it, yeah. Just get it. And everything is the right word, because anything and everything he ate. And what were they? He ate porridge made from any ingredients, vegetables, fruit, nuts, meat, especially pork, curry and rice, regardless of condiments. Condiments are the spices and chilies, bread, eggs, chocolates, sweets, pudding, ice cream, etc., etc., etc. So everything is the right word. He ate absolutely everything. And as for drink, now to drink, what all he drank? Again, the word is everything. Milk, tea, coffee, lime juice, aerated water, buttermilk, beer, alcoholic liquor, and in fact, anything liquid. It all went down with relish. He enjoyed whatever he ate and whatever he drank. He relished it. He enjoyed it. Cute little bear. The bear became very attached to our two Alsatian dogs and to all the children of the tenants living in our bungalow. Now, it started staying there, right? So, it got attached. You can see this Alsatian dogs. Yes, it got attached to the two Alsatian dogs, and of course to the children of the tenants, the person who occupies land. So, this narrator had tenants in his bungalow, so he got used to the children also of the tenants. He was left quite free in his younger days and spent his time in playing, running into the kitchen, going to sleep in our beds. One day, an accident befell him. It happened to him. So he was enjoying. When he was young, he was let loose. He was not tied up and all. He was let loose and he used to enjoy himself, spending his time playing, running into the kitchen. He used to go and even sleep in their beds. Yes. And suddenly, one fine day, an accident took place, befell him, as in it happened to him. And what was that accident? I put down poison, that's barium carbonate, to kill the rats and mice that had got into my library. Now, in the narrator's library, there were rats and mice. So, he wanted to kill them. So, what he did was, he had put some poison there. So, when, these rats take this barium carbonate, they die actually, or eventually they just run away. Bruno entered the library. Now, Bruno was not aware because he would eat everything. So, anything that was there, he would eat it up. Now, barium carbonate was something which he was not aware of. So, he entered the library as he often did, and he ate some of the poison. Paralysis set into the extent that he could not stand on his feet. Now, that poison had some effect. That little poison which he took, obviously, it put up its effect. And what was the effect? He got a paralytic attack. Paralysis, as in, the body stops working. Depends, maybe your limbs, maybe one side of your body, it all depends. Yeah. So, he got it in such a manner that he could not, his feet had got paralyzed. He could not stand on his feet. But he dragged himself on his stumps as in the part of the limb, here legs. He, pushed himself, he dragged himself, he felt something is happening wrong to him. So where did he go? He ran to my wife, the narrator's wife, who called me. She immediately called me with a scream. I guessed what had happened. Now he thought, he guessed that maybe this guy has taken the poison because he only had kept it. No, the narrator had kept it in the library. Off I rushed in the car to the vet's residence. Vet is a veterinary surgeon. A vet is an animal doctor. Yeah. So he quickly ran to his house. A case of poisoning. Tame bear, barium carbonate. What to do? Now this was a different case. So now the doctor is wondering, how do I treat him? Out came his medical books and a feverish reference to index began. He took out his books and he was a little, hoping to get that fast. What poison did you say, sir? Says barium carbonate. Ah, yes, barium salts, barium carbonate. He was going through the index. So going through the index is just like going through a dictionary. First you find B, then you find BA. So this is what he was doing. He got to barium salts and finally got to barium carbonate. Symptoms. What are the symptoms? What are the signs? What are the indications? Paralysis. Treatment. What is the treatment? Injections of, just a minute sir, I'll bring my syringe and the medicine. He got how to treat that animal. So immediately he got up. He said, okay, I have to inject him. So just wait. A dash back to the car. He went running back to the car. Bruno still floundering about on his stumps, as in he was struggling to move. He had that problem in his legs, but clearly weakening rapidly. It was showing that he is becoming weaker faster and faster. Some vomiting, heavy breathing, with heaving flanks and gaping mouth. Heaving flanks as in side of an animal's body. He was just trying his level best to, go across these symptoms. Hold him, everybody. He says, now I have to inject him. So everybody needs to hold him. In goes the hypodermic. Hypodermic is that long needle. It is used to give an injection under the skin. So it was a pretty long needle. So in goes the hypodermic. Bruno squeals. He makes a long, high-pitched noise or cry. I mean, suddenly that long needle goes into his body. So he just screamed like. 10 cc of the antidote enters his system without a drop being wasted. The whole medicine entered his body. 10 minutes later, condition unchanged. Now, after 10 minutes after 10 minutes of injecting, yet the condition was the same. It did not change. What next? Another 10 cc injected. Within 10 minutes, again they injected another 10 cc of the medicine. 10 minutes later, breathing less stertorous. Now, after that, his breathing was less noisy. It was not like before. Bruno can move his arms and legs a little, although he cannot stand yet. Now, a little movement came immediately. A little movement in his hands and legs, but yes, not that much strength that he could stand up. 30 minutes later. Now, they were waiting for the medicine to work. Yeah, 20 cc of medicine had already gone in. So they waited for some time. And what was it? Bruno gets up and has a great feed. He gets up and the first thing he does was he ate royally. He looks at us disdainfully as in showing contempt. Now I'm satisfied, I ate. As much as to say, what's barium carbonate to a big black bear like me? Bruno is still eating. He says, oh, what can that barium carbonate do to me? I am nice and strong. I fought it back and he is still eating. Another time, he found nearly 1 gallon of old engine oil, which I had drained from the sump of the stud baker and was keeping as a weapon against the inroads of termites. Now, that was once the accident he faced. He also faced another accident. Right? Now, being an animal, he didn't know what he's supposed to eat and what he's supposed to drink and what he's not. Right? So, another time he found nearly 1 gallon, that's a unit of liquid, which is 3.79 liters. Yeah, that's the unit, that's the measurement. So, gallon is 3.79 liters of old engine oil, which I had drained, which I had removed from the sump, that means the base of an internal combustion engine, which serves as a reservoir of oil for the lubrication. So it was there in the engine, that's the engine oil. And then this was from the sump of the stud baker, that's the, the car, the model, and was keeping, now I had kept it as a weapon against the inroads of termites. So in case we have such issue, we can use it. He promptly drank the lot. He did not know what it was because he would take any liquid, but it had no ill effects whatsoever. He was fine, thank God. That did not affect him. Yes, the poison did give him a problem, but not this oil. The months rolled on, the time went by, and Bruno had grown many times the size he was when he came. He came as a baby bear, and now he had grown nice and tall and big. He had equaled the Alsatians in height and had even outgrown them. Now the Alsatian dog, he had even grown taller than them, but was just as sweet, just as mischievous, and just as playful. Though he had grown taller, he had grown big, but yet he was all the same. He was all that same naughty, he was playful, and he was equally very cute. And he was very fond of us all. He loved all of us very, very much. He did not do any harm because now they were like family to him. Above all, he loved my wife, and she loved him too. Now, this was like a mother, like for him, she was like a mother. She would take care of all his needs. So he was more attached to the narrator's wife. She had changed his name from Bruno to Baba, a Hindustani word signifying small boy. So here he gets his name as Baba. The same Bruno becomes Baba because he had grown up. And he could do a few tricks too. Now we have to keep these tricks in mind for your 2 and 3 marks question. And remember, while you are getting the flow of the chapter, you are understanding every word, every line, you will be able to answer your extracts. Extracts are your references. Any one line will be given and questions will be asked on that. You have understood the story, you can write your extracts very well. So please don't worry, just keep listening. Yeah, keep understanding, keep listening the entire story and you are sorted. And see, it is so beautifully done because you have the words, right? You have this vocabulary and along with that you have your meanings mentioned below. So that's such an easy job. It's nothing difficult for you at all. Yeah, so it's very comfortable. So just let's go on. Yeah, so here we know he became from Bruno to Baba. Now he could also do a few tricks. Now what sort of tricks would he do? Let's listen. At the command Baba wrestle or Baba box, he vigorously tackled anyone who came forward for a rough and tumble. He would just do that and he would just tumble and enjoy himself. Give him a stick and say, Baba, hold the gun. And he pointed the stick at you as though he's ready to shoot. Ask him, Baba, where's baby? And what he would do? He immediately produced and cradled affectionately a stump of wood. He would immediately take a stump of wood, he would put it in his hand and rock it like a baby, which he had carefully concealed, he had hidden in his straw bed. He had kept that stump of wood over there only. So whenever anyone would ask him, where's the baby? He would take that wood, he would hold it and he would do this, showing that that's a baby. Just like we, teach our small children different things to do. Yeah. This is how the bear also had learned some tricks. He had learned to wrestle, to box, he had learned, to point a gun, he had rock a baby. This is what he had done. But because of the tenant's children, now the tenant's children, poor Bruno or Baba had to be kept chained most of the time. Now because those children were there, he had to be chained because he might do any harm to them. Then my son and I advised my wife, and friends advised her too, to give Baba to the zoo at Mysore. They said, look, He's grown up now. Now he can no longer stay in your house. He's too big to stay there. Yeah. So why don't you just put him in the zoo, at Mysore? He was getting too big to be kept at home. After some weeks of such advice, she at last consented. Finally, she was not ready at all, because she was very attached. Even the bear was very attached to her. So for a few weeks, she kept, telling them, no, it's okay, he's fine. But then finally, after some weeks, she was okay. She agreed. She said, fine, let's take him. Hastily, immediately, and before she could change her mind, now before she could, just say, no, let him be here only, it's okay, I'll take care. What he did was, a letter was written to the curator of the zoo. Who's the curator? A person in charge of the zoo. Immediately, they wrote a letter. Did he want a tame bear for his collection? Now, the collection of animals that he had in a zoo, did he want a tame bear? He was trained. He was, at home. He was like a pet. So he was a tame bear. He replied, yes, why wouldn't he? It is such a unique thing to keep in the zoo. People would be happy to see him. Now imagine being in the cage and doing pointing gun and cradle and boxing and wrestling. Why wouldn't anyone want it? The zoo sent a cage from Mysore in a lorry, a distance of 87 miles. Please remember all this. A distance of 87 miles, and Baba was packed off. He was sent away. We all missed him greatly, but in a sense, we were relieved. We did miss him, but then somewhere we were relaxed at the same time. I mean, he was too big to be kept at home. My wife was inconsolable. Inconsolable as in not able to be comforted. She was really missing him terribly. It's like, her child going away. So you couldn't just stop her, from that grief. She wept and she fretted. She was worried. She was unhappy. She was unable to relax. She just couldn't find peace. She fretted a lot. For the first few days, she would not eat a thing. She was missing him so badly, that she could not eat anything. Then she wrote a number of letters to the curator. How was Baba? She wanted to make sure that he is fine over there, because he had become like a child for her. And if the child is gone away from the mother is obviously extremely worried. So she was very worried. Back came the replies. Well, but fretting, he refuses food too. Even the bear over there was in the same condition as the mother. The bond of love between the two, the mother and the bear. Now, even there, he was unhappy. He was not able to relax. Even he was not ready to eat. Why? Because he was missing the narrator's wife and his house and the people over there. After that, friends visiting Mysore were begged to make a point of going to the zoo and seeing how Baba was getting along. Now what happened was, now something had to be done. So whichever friends went to Mysore, or people who were there, like the narrator's friends, they were asked to go and see. It was like, you have to go and check how Baba is. Is he fine over there? Please visit the zoo and first go and see Baba. They reported that he was well, but looked very thin and sad. Now the poor bear was not ready to eat. So it had become thin and it was very unhappy. All the keepers at the zoo said he was fretting. He was not able to relax. He was unhappy. For 3 months, I managed to restrain my wife from visiting Mysore. Now, for 3 months, the narrator tried. She wanted to go and see. Now, they were thinking, with time, maybe they both would be okay. The bear over there and the mother over here. 3 months, the narrator made sure that she does not go and visit the zoo. He did not want that to happen, because again, they would start getting used to each other. Again, that bond, that connection would come. So they kept them away for 3 months. But then she said one day, I must see Baba. Either you take me by car or I will go myself by bus or train. She says, you take me by car, fine. If not, I will go by the bus or the train, but I am going. So I took her by car. Now it was a long distance. Friends had conjectured that the bear would not recognize her. Now conjecture as in they formed an opinion by guessing. They told the narrator, don't worry, I don't think, now it's a 3 months gap. Do you think the bear is going to recognize her? He will not, so don't worry. I had thought so too. He said, even I felt the same. Maybe the 3 months distance would definitely make sure that he is not going to recognize her. But while she was yet some yards from his cage, Baba saw her. She had not even reached the cage and he saw her from far and recognized her. He immediately recognized her. He howled with happiness. He was so happy. Oh my God, I'm getting goosebumps. He was so happy. She ran up to him. She literally ran to him and she petted him through the bars. Now he was in the cage. So she stroked and she patted him affectionately with lots of love, and he stood on his head in delight. He was so happy. He was so happy to see her that he stood on his head in delight. He was extremely happy. For the next 3 hours, she would not leave that cage. She was glued to that cage. She was there for 3 hours. She gave him tea, lemonade, cakes, ice cream and what not, because he would eat everything and she knew he was hungry. He had not eaten anything. He was so unhappy. So she took so many things for him to eat. Then closing time came. Now the zoo also closes. It has the opening and closing hours. So the closing time came and we had to leave. My wife cried bitterly. She cried a lot. Baba cried bitterly. Even he was crying because they both did not want to part. They both did not want to separate. Even the hardened curator and the keepers felt depressed. Now the caretaker and the keepers over there, when they saw this scene, that how the mother and the bear, how they are attached, even they were sad to see this. As for me, I had reconciled myself. I had accepted what I knew was going to happen next. Looking at them, the narrator was sure. He was definite what's going to happen and he was already okay with it. He says, I know what's going to happen next and I'm fine with it. Oh, please, sir, she asked the curator, that's the narrator's wife, may I have my Baba back? Hesitantly, he answered, Madam, he belongs to the zoo and is government property now. He says, now this is government property. He already belongs to the zoo. I cannot give away government property, not until and unless if my boss, the superintendent at Bangalore, agrees. Certainly, you may have him back. Says, I cannot do it because he's government property. But yes, if the superintendent at Bangalore, that's the boss of the curator, if he says okay, then I'm fine with him. I can return him to you. There followed the return journey to Bangalore and a visit to the superintendent's bungalow. Immediately, she went back to Bangalore. She took the permission from there. A tearful pleading. She literally was crying and pleading. Baba and I are both fretting for each other. We are so unhappy without each other. Will you please give him back to me? He says, just give him back to me, please. He was a kind-hearted man and consented. He was very kind-hearted and he says, okay, he agreed. Not only that, but he wrote to the curator telling him to lend us a cage for transporting the bear to Bangalore. He says, give them the cage. Please take that bear in the cage back to Bangalore. Back we went to Mysore again, armed with the superintendent's letter. Now they got the letter from there which was signed and agreed. So again they went back to Mysore. Baba was driven into a small cage and hoisted on top of the car. Now, he was in a small cage, and that cage was kept on top of the car. The cage was tied securely, obviously, and a slow and careful return journey. Now, he had to drive carefully, very slowly, to Bangalore was accomplished. Finally, they got back home with him. Once home, a squad of coolies were engaged for special work in our compound. A squad of coolies as in unskilled native labor, just the people over there. They were all engaged, they were all called to work to do some special work. What was that? An island was made for Baba. You know what's an island, right? A piece of land surrounded by water on all sides. We all know the definition of an island. So they literally did that. They literally got an island made in their compound. It was 20 feet long and 15 feet wide. It was that big and was surrounded by a dry pit or moat. Moat, we know, is a deep, wide ditch. 6 feet wide and 7 feet deep. Now, it was definitely, so that he could not escape from there. He could not come out from there. A wooden box that once housed fowls as in the domesticated birds, you can see over there, was brought and put on the island for Baba to sleep. Even that wooden house was kept so that he could sleep comfortably. In at night, straw was placed inside to keep him warm, and his baby, the gnarled stump, as in the twisted stump, that wood thing was there, along with his gun, that piece of stick, the piece of bamboo, both of which had been sentimentally, that emotionally, it was arousing feelings of tenderness, sadness, or nostalgia in an exaggerated way. So sentimentally, in the sense, very emotionally, he was emotionally connected to those things. Preserved since he had been sent away to the zoo, were put back for him to play with. The mother had kept those things, like sort of his toys, very carefully. She had kept it so that now when he's back, she kept those same things over there so that he could play with them. It was like an emotional connect. Sometimes you must be having some toys, something of your childhood to which you're emotionally connected. It quite often happens. In a few days, the coolies hoisted the cage. Hoisted as in they raised by means of ropes. Now it was so deep, so obviously with a rope or a pulley, they had to keep that cage onto the island, and Baba was released. Now he was left over there. He was delighted. Standing on his hind legs, on his back legs, he pointed his gun and cradled his baby. He was so happy to be back. He showed his happiness by, being on his back legs and, cradling the baby and pointing his gun. My wife spent hours sitting on a chair there while he sat on her lap. Now, she had kept a chair there and she used to go and visit him, and he used to go and sit on her lap for hours together. He was 15 months old and pretty heavy too. Now, you can imagine a bear. The way my wife reaches the island and leaves, it is interesting. Now, imagine that island is so deep. How does she go? They didn't build a staircase, otherwise the bear can also come up, no? They didn't do that. So there was no way for the bear to escape. So how did she go down? And she would do that every day. She would go spend hours with him and she would come back. How? I have tied a rope to the overhanging branch of a mango tree with a loop at its end. There's a big thick rope. Putting one foot in the loop, she puts one foot in that loop. She kicks off with the other to bridge the 6-foot gap that constitutes the width of the surrounding pit, which actually makes the width. She gets through that, that 6-foot gap. And then the return journey is made in the same way. She just puts her foot in that loop. She, with the other foot, she just throws herself. She, completes that gap, and the same way she comes back. But who can say now that a sloth bear has no sense of affection, no memory, and no individual characteristics? You think that a sloth bear, a bear who actually lives in a jungle, do you think he has no sense of affection, no love, no memory? He remembered her even after, 3 months, 3 long months, he still remembered her, and he has no individual characteristics. You think, is that the case? Well, this is what we spoke about, the bond of love between the mother and the bear, between a human and an animal. So yes, I love animals sometimes more than people because they don't judge. All they want is love. H.J. Lawson. Yes, even animals just want love. In fact, even if you look at humans, even humans just want love. Stop judging, stop commenting, stop comparing, stop it all. It's all about give love and take love. Yes, so please keep being really good and put away all the negativity and keep watching and keep learning.